Welcome. This is a tutorial on how to to install the Windows 2008 server and to set up the WDS. Okay, this is going to be in a virtual box, and you could duplicate the same settings on the host computer instead of doing it in VirtualBox. You could do it either way. So let's get started. Click on New, and let's go with Next. And I want to select Windows 2008 Server, 2008 64-bit. And I'm going to call this one Win Server 2008. Click Next on that. Now you can leave the default amount of RAM in there is fine. Click Next. And click Next again. Next for the defaults. I'm going to leave it dynamically allocated so this will go quick. Click Next again. I'll leave it at 20 gig. Click Next. And then Create. Alright, here on my Win Server 2008, I'm going to right click on it. Go to Settings. And I'm going to highlight Storage. And I'm going to highlight the empty container for the cd-rom. And I want to add the virtual disk or the ISO. So I'm going to click on Choose Virtual Disk Drive. And I believe I copied mine to my desktop. The ISO is going to be labeled. Let's see, do I have this one on here? Pretty sure I copied it up on here, but maybe I didn't. Oh, I moved it into a folder on my desktop here. Hang on. Here it is right here. I moved it into the Win 2008 server. This is my server file here. Notice the GRMSX evaluation is what it stands for, and it's a DVD. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Okay, notice that it's on here, so it should be able to start. Let's go ahead and install it. And it looks like it's installing okay. Yep, and it is Windows 2008 server, so let's click Next on it. Install now. Alright, and let's go to Enterprise Full Installation. Click Next on it. Accept the terms and license. Click Next. And I want to do a custom advanced install. 20 gigs is fine. Alright, let's continue on. Let's set up a password. Generally what I put in there is password percent 123. Alright, looks like it's been changed. Alright, first off we need to turn off a few things so that they don't interfere with the install. It looks like it's loading up great. Okay, if Server Manager doesn't first come up, I believe it's going to right now. That's why we have an hourglass on there. Oh, maybe not. We go ahead and click on the Server Manager. It may open up a couple of them because it's still loading. Alright. So actually three things that we need to do that I've mentioned in class. So you guys need to, we need to turn off the firewall. We need to turn off this ICSE setting correct right here. Plus we need to change the computer name to a friendlier computer name. And we also need to set up a static IP address. So let's start off by changing the computer name because it's probably going to require a restart. So let's click on the change system properties. Whoops. And then you come down here and click on change, and I'm going to call mine win2008. Okay. Click OK on that. And when it comes up, I'm probably going to decide not to let it restart because I can go through and do all these setting changes just before it restarts. So I'm going to go ahead and allow that. I'm going to say restart later. You go to network connections. First, what I want to do is I want to go to start. After this, and I want to go to CMD, and I want to find out the IP address that it was given to it. Now, if I look at this, and the first one by default, now this is possibly an internal network address, and I believe it is. So what I want to do is I want to go down here and change the network card interface, which I'm going to right click on the network adapters, go to properties. Yep, and it is. It's set to NAT. So I want to change it to a bridged adapter. Let's go ahead and OK it. And then what I want to do is let's go down here to the configure ICS. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those off. Right. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to a web page here just to make sure that it comes up, and it'll grab an IP address this way. It makes it easy. Instead of doing IP config /release and then /renew. This is a little quicker way of doing it. So I get on the web. There, now I know it did grab an IP address because I am on the web. So I'll go back to start again. Type in CMD. Alright, and I'm going to type in IP config. Whoops, didn't type in there, hang on. You notice I grabbed a new IP address scheme, so it's 10.1. Now yours may differ in the lab. Remember, it's going to start with 192.168. But this is the way that my home router is set up. So I want to put the static IP address in of 10.0.1.16. So that's what I need to change my IP address. My default gateway is 10.0.1.1. So let's go make those changes. So if you look here at the top here, go to View Network Connections, right click on the network card interface, then go to Properties. And since I'm not using IPv6, I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck it so it doesn't configure itself and it interfere with what I'm doing. So I'm going to highlight the IPv4, go to Properties, change to my static IP address of 10.0.1.16. 1 dot, I believe it was 15, but let me check to make sure. Oh, it's dot 16. So let's change it to dot 16. My default gateway is 0 dot 1 dot 1. And I need to change this one to the IP address of my computer. So it's 10 dot 0 dot 1 dot 16. So it can resolve itself. Okay, let's click OK on it. Click OK on that. And the other changes that it needed to do required a restart to be able to finish the computer name, because I noticed it hasn't changed. So I'm going to go ahead and restart it. Yep, I'm going to restart it now. Sign the correct URL. Alright. Send the control delete. Whoops, let's see. Alright, let me log back in. Alright, my static IP address now. Make sure that my computer name changed. Yes, it did. Notice that it changed right here to the win2008. Makes it easy enough. So now what we need to do is we need to start adding our roles to it. So the first one that needs to be added is the Active Directory role. So I'm going to go ahead and add roles. Click next on that. And I'm going to go to Active Directory Services. If you guys see right here, I selected Active Directory Domain Services. So let's go ahead and add those features right now. Click next on it. Next again. And install. It's a relatively short period of time that it takes to install this. However, if you guys were installing this on a domain and setting it up, sometimes it does take a little bit longer than what we're doing here. Alright, that's set up. Let's go ahead and click on the Active Directory Domain Services. We need to configure it. Comes up on here right on the top. It says run the Active Domain Directory Services installation wizard. So let's go ahead and go through that. Click next on it. Click next again. And I want to create a new domain and a new forest. Click next. And I want to give it a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to give it, I'm going to call my domain labroom.online. local. Click next on it. I'm just waiting for it to finish installing here. And this has to be completely configured. So I'm going to, instead of running 2003 support, I'm going to run straight up Windows Server 2008 R2. So it's not going to have any backward compatibility. And I'm going to click next on that. Went through fairly quickly. I'm going to click next again. Yes, I'm going to create a DNS server, so you want to answer yes to this. You notice that this is listing where it's going to put the files at to be able to run the DNS server. Let's click next on it as well. And I'm going to give this the same password as we did to log into the server. Okay. Alright, that went through. Let's click next on that as well. And it's going to finish the DNS and Active Directory installation here. Alright, looks like it's going to take a little bit. Hello, hello. Alright, looks like that's finished. Let's click finish on it and let it restart again. Alright, looks like it's restarted here. Alright, it looks like I need to bring up the VirtualBox back here. So what I want to do is I want to right click on the server that I just created, go to settings, and I want to go to storage, and I want to add another hard drive to it. So let's add by highlighting the controller, add a hard disk, create new, next, leave it dynamic is fine, and let's go with the 30 gig is fine. Whoops, 30 gig, click next on it, and then go ahead and create it. And then we have our secondary hard drive. This is where we can store our images. Actually, you know what? I think it's probably going to be better to store a little bit larger one. So I'm going to add a little bit larger hard drive. Let's click on add a hard drive again, create, VDI, dynamic, and I'm going to make this one 50 gig. 50 gig drive. Next on it. It's complaining about me just naming the previous one the same name. So I'm going to click put a 2 on the end of that. Create. There we go. We have our 50 gig drive. Then what I need to do is I want to go to network controllers. I want to go to adapter 2 and enable a secondary network card, and I want to use this as internal network only. Secondary network adapter. First one is bridged, secondary one is internal. So I'm going to OK that. Alright, so let's go ahead and fire the server back up again. Alright, looks like it started back up here. Alright, looks like it's firing up okay. And I want to statically set up my other network card as well. So I want to give that one an entirely different IP address altogether. Waiting for it to load here. Okay, since I have Server Manager highlighted, I'm waiting for the service to start up here. And I want to go to Network Connections. You notice that I have two network cards in here now. I'm going to go to the secondary one I just added. Right click on it. Go to Properties. I'm going to turn off the IPv6 because I'm not going to use it. Highlight the IPv4. Go to the Settings tab, and I'm going to give this one an absolute different IP address, but I need a static one. I'm going to call this 192.168.120. Let's say we'll call this one 10. Okay. No need to put a gateway in there because it's not going to be used for that. This is only going to be used for installing or setting up the DWS server. So I'm going to click OK on it. That's fine. Let me go through with it. I don't care about DNS on this controller. I'm only setting it up so when I add a dhcp, that'll have a location to add it to. And let me demonstrate what I mean about that. So now that I've set that IP address up, and let me close this server manager down so we can show the updates. It's taking a little bit because it's doing a little bit of processing to be able to close those down. There we go. Let's open the server manager back up. Alright. Alright, there we go. You can see my local area connection. Here's my secondary card, and here's my primary card. Both of them are static IP addresses. They are not dhcp. They're static, so I have manually set them. So I need 2 network cards. I'm just the way I'm doing this particular lab. We can also do it with 1, but the success of making it work in the VirtualBox is a little bit less. But however, this is going to come with experimentation on your part as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go to roles. And I want to go ahead and add a dhcp server to this. Everything else looks okay. I'm going to go to add roles. Click next on that, and I want to add a dhcp server. And let's click next on it, and next again. And you notice that it comes up with the 2 interfaces. We don't want to use the main interface. We're only going to use the internal one, which is the one I set up here. Okay, click next on it, and we click next on this because all this information is correct. This just means the local computer right here by 127.0.1. I'm going to click next again, and I'm going to leave it as I don't want a Win server, so I'm going to click next. I'm going to go ahead and add a scope right now. Okay, so I'm going to add okay. That's just what I'm calling it. You guys can name anything you want, but my IP address starts at 192.168.120, and I can't start it at 10 because that was the IP address internally, but I can start it at 11, and this is going to be how many automatic IP addresses I'm going to give out to make this work. And let's just say, let's add it up to 20. Okay, so that means that I get all of these IP, actually 10 would be, sorry, 20 IP addresses would be like that. Okay, so I might as well give them out. If I need them, I actually only need 1 for the lab that we're doing, but I'm just giving you guys a demonstration to set it up if you needed to change it and add it for the real world example. So I'm going to click OK on that. Notice my scope here. Click next on it. Next. And I'm not going to, let's see, what is it complaining about? It's asking me for the IP address. I believe it's asking me for the IP address of the computer. Let's see, an alternate. It's asking me for IPv, so IPv must be enabled on that card. Let's go back. I want to disable IPv6 for stateless mode. We're not setting that up, so we're going to click next on that. So just make sure if you do that, you disable it. Click next, and OK the settings on there. The default, which is current credentials, is fine. Click next and install. Alright, looks like that's configured. Looks like it started up okay here. I can see it. Oops. I see a scope set up for it. Good. Looks like it's up and running. And now, last but not least, I want to add the WDS role as well. So let's go back to roles. And let's add that service. Let's go to add, roles, click next. And I want to add the Windows deployment services right down here. Okay, Windows deployment services. Click next on it. Click next again. Next on all the defaults and go ahead and install it. Alright, looks like that worked. And then once it is installed, let's go ahead and install our first image on there. And I believe the Windows 2000, let's see, it's asking me, it says it's not been configured. So what I want to do is I want to right click on it and I want to configure the server. Following requirements are met. Yes, I have dhcp. I have everything set up on here. Oh, only other thing, cancel that. Remember when we added the 30 gig drive? So I'm going to go to Start. And I want to go to Administrative Tools, Computer Management. I can actually go in, I believe I can go under this icon down here under Storage. But I actually went this way. So Disk Manager, there's more than one way to get to it. So you notice that once I clicked on Disk Manager, it detected that disk that I loaded up earlier. I showed you the 50 gig. Here it is. I'm going to right click on that. New sample volume. And then click Next. 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 And then perform a quick one. Yes, next. And finish. Alright, it did. It created that secondary drive. This is where we need to install the actual images on the drive. So let's right click on this. Again, configure the server. Click Next. Now you notice where it did it. It's actually drive E because this is going to not, it'll fail if you try to put it on drive C. So this is the secondary drive that I created. So it's on drive E now. Click Next. And I don't need to check any boxes on here. I'm going to leave all that default. So click Next. And I want to respond to all clients and computers. Okay, known and unknown, I don't care. Require an approval for this. Now we don't need any. I'm just going to set it up all default so it works. Click Next again. I'm going to add an image right now just to finish that process. Click Finish. And what it's doing is it's asking, so I have the Windows 2008 server. I'm going to use that as an image to install over the network now. So I'm going to click on the Browse button. And I've actually added it as a CD if you guys remember to install it. So it's highlighted here. So what it's doing is it's asking me for the root of that drive. If you guys see this down here, which contains the images that you want to install, the path through the installation DVD. So this is the very first one. So I'm going to click OK on that. And I'll click Next. And I'm going to create this as the Server 2008 group. Okay. Click Next and Next. And then let's load it up. Let's load the image up into the system. And this will end tutorial 1 of 2 tutorials to complete this last install. Thank you, and I'll stay tuned for the next tutorial. Bye bye now.